Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, Season 8, Episode 23. And this is being pre-recorded early, as with most of these past episodes have been. This is being pre-recorded on Tuesday, September 4th. You will not be seeing this, let's see, I think until the 29th. I think that's when the initial air date for this episode is going to be. So yeah, you're not seeing this early, you're seeing it when it airs. I'm recording it early. That's what's going on. So I don't know anything about this episode, except I have heard people are really hyped about it. Some people are like labeling it as one of the better ones of the season. Now, I'm not saying it's not going to be, but that's going to be a tough thing to live up to. Especially when we've already had episodes this season, such as On the Road to Friendship. We've had so many great episodes this season. Like, some people have said that they've been kind of mixed on Season 8, and admittedly I have been too. There have been episodes that have been not so stellar. There have been episodes that I just straight up did not like, and still don't. But overall, I think the season's been pretty darn good. I mean, it kicked off with School Days, which was fantastic. It's had other episodes here and there that have been just wonderful. And it's just like, yes, not every episode's going to be a hit, but that's never the case. You're never going to have a season of a show, or a show in general, where every episode's going to be good. That's impossible, straight up. But either way, I think we're on the path to something great to finish off with. Even though part of what I think is coming for the finale is irritating as hell to me, I think overall we're going to finish off the season and be pleased with it. At least I will. So yeah, I don't know anything else about today's episode. So we're just going to get this started. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So that being said, thank you all so much for tuning in today, and I will see you at the reaction. Okay, and we are back, and we will begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. Okay, so in my pre-thoughts, I mentioned how I had heard people were talking about how this episode was like really freaking good, and how they were even saying it was one of the best of the season. And I mentioned how like I felt that that was a tall order, that was a hard thing to accomplish because of this season already having so many good episodes. And especially ones like On the Road to Friendship and the premiere, both being exceptionally wonderful and well done. And there have been a lot of great episodes even outside of Road to Friendship just lately. I mean, Rockhoof in a Hard Place was fantastic. What Lies Beneath could have been a little better, but was still great. Washouts was great. We also had stuff like the Heartswarming Club, Meltdown, Marks for Effort. Horseplay, Fake It Till You Make It. This season's had a lot of great episodes. And as I said in the beginning, yes, it's had some duds, but I think the good stuff has outweighed the bad. But yeah, people were saying that this is one of the best of the season, and I think I agree. I really, really felt going into this that again, that was a tall order, that it was going to be too hard to live up to that hype. Because that's what happens most of the time. Most of the time when you have an episode that's hyped up this much, like seriously, I've heard more hype for this episode than most of the others in this season. when an episode is hyped up this much, it rarely lives up to that hype. There's a couple examples from seasons that have definitely lived up to the hype. But it's not like super often that they really do, and even less so that they surpass the hype. I don't think this necessarily surpassed it, but it definitely lived up to it. And I definitely think this was one of the best of the season. You saw at the end there, at the end of the reaction, I was actually getting choked up a little bit. Not because anything was sad or like extremely emotionally gripping exactly. I was getting choked up because of how just well done it was. Like, their amazing pacing, great storytelling, writing, all of that jazz. The characters were well handled. The plot was great. And it was really just like refreshing to get this new land, these new characters, a new race of characters, and some great world-building lore. And then to see it all come to a head in the end with the overall message that everyone feels anger and that you don't need to, you shouldn't try to get rid of it, but rather learn to control it and learn to handle it in a healthy way. That's an exceptionally important lesson. And I don't think they've covered that really. I mean, they've covered anger on the show, but not quite this lesson, I believe. I might be wrong. I might be forgetting something, which is always possible, but I don't think they have covered this. Again, not in this way, at least. Because here's the thing. Anger is an emotion. And no matter what we try to do as humans, I'm covering this from a human perspective, even though it's a pony show, because obviously we're the viewers. I don't know why I need to explain that, but as humans, we feel emotions. It's something we can't escape. It's something we can't just stop. We can't help. We feel emotions. We feel happy. We feel sad. We feel confused. We feel timid. We feel angry. We feel so many different emotions, and it's like, a lot of times we try to hide from them. We try to hold them back. There are a lot of people who face depression, who try their hardest to hide that sorrow from others and put on this happy face all the time. And in the end, all that's going to do is make things worse, and in a lot of cases leads to a lot of people with this depression committing suicide, or attempting it at least. I mean, I've been there. There have been people, friends of mine, who were surprised when they found out that I was suicidal back in 2013. Because they said that I never, like, seemed like I was sad about, like, anything like that. But that's because I was trying to just act normal, act happy, act like I was not depressed. And it's not just with that kind of thing either. There are people who try to hide their anger, and it ends up building up inside of them and eventually exploding out. Kind of like in this episode. The Kirins were a generally peaceful, happy race, and when they started showing signs of extreme anger and started transforming because of it, they got scared. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to handle that. And so, instead of trying to control it and trying to hold it back, they eventually just let that fear consume them. They were too worried about how it was going to affect things instead of what they could do to stop it. You know what I'm saying? Emotions are very healthy to have. It's healthy to be angry. Believe it or not, like, it is very healthy to be angry. Because when you're angry, it allows you to get out your emotions. It allows you to speak your mind, and in a lot of cases, work through a lot of problems. There have been multiple things in my life that I would not have been able to get through if not for anger. It sounds weird to think about, but it's true. There have been times where getting angry has allowed me to speak my mind about certain things to certain people that I otherwise would have been too timid to be able to talk about. And because of it, it helped my life in great ways. Now, any emotion, if left uncontrolled, of course, can be dangerous. And this episode doesn't try to hide that fact. Anger, when uncontrolled, can lead to some bad things. In the Kirins' case, it leads to them transforming and becoming extremely destructive and, legitimately very freaking dangerous with all the fire and whatnot. But in the end, again, it's all about control. Control doesn't mean you're like hiding it. Control means that you're balancing things out. That it's not you're not just getting rid of the bad, you're having the bad and the good in equal measure. Now this episode also gave us Kirins. Kirins, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe they're Eastern Asian mythological creatures. And I don't know all the details about them, but some people have compared them to like dragon-like horses. I know, and I think there's variations on them as well. And in some cases, they're also known as Kirins, which is spelled slightly differently and everything. I don't know too much outside of what we saw in here. I don't know also how accurate what we saw in this episode is compared to the real mythology surrounding these creatures. But I'm interested to learn more. Now, as I mentioned before, like when it was first revealed about the Kirins in this episode, I actually have had a Kirin OC. I've had multiple MLP-based original characters. I have a few like main ones, but then of course there is ones I would consider like supporting ones. I don't know how else to put it. And one of them is a Kirin. In fact, for a while on one of my old channels, not the more recent one, but on one of my old channels, I had a Kirin OC named Kirins. And I'm going to see real quick if I can get the picture up here. There we go. So this is, the art is by Stage Techie Art. And this is, this was my OC. My OC, my Kirin OC, Kirins. This was obviously well before I came out as trans and everything. I mean, otherwise I probably would have gone with a female Kirin, but still. You can see it has a similar design with the mane and everything, the lion-like tail and whatnot. The Kirins in the show, they had the fetlocks as well, which is, you know, the furry hooves where it's like you have the like shaven hooves at the bottom and then all the fur draped over them and stuff. They had like much smaller versions of those, unlike in this one where they're very, very freaking furry. And instead of like the antlers, they just had the one horn in the middle. So it's like, it's similar. I don't know why I'm moving this around a lot, but it's similar, but not completely the same. I also had other like art done of it, like here's a headshot of him, Kirins. I did a pony version of him as well, but I don't need to worry about that. Let me see if I can find another version. I don't think I had much art done of him. No. This was the original I made, though. I made this one using a base, like a Kirin, just base design, I found on Google Images. And this was like what I originally designed. The other one I showed before, the stage techie one, was like an updated version that Stage made for me, based off of this one. But yeah, so that's interesting, and a lot of fans have wanted Kirins to appear in the show for years, so a lot of people are going to be really happy about that. But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I think this Autumn Blaze character, I think was her name, she is adorable as fuck. Like, seriously. She is freaking adorable. And she does. I mentioned it, she reminds me of Pinkie Pie, but also not. And what I mean by that is she's very high energy, she's very silly, goofy, likes to have fun and everything. She's definitely very Pinkie Pie-like in a lot of that. But also, she actually reminds me of someone else from something else, and I don't remember what it is. Like, there's some other character from another show or whatnot, and she so reminds me of this character, but I don't remember who they are. For the life of me, I have no freaking clue. I mean, it's not like Star from Star Versus. It's not Mabel from Gravity Falls. She reminds me of someone specific that I just can't think of who it is. I can't even really picture, like, what they look like or anything, so that doesn't help. I don't know. She reminds me of someone very specific, though, and I just can't think of it. It's just like, ugh, I hate it when that happens. But yeah, there is a connection still to Pinkie. And the last thing I do want to mention here, this was a friendship quest. And when I look at friendship quest episodes, I like to kind of analyze, like, okay, so was this worth being a friendship quest episode? And did the two halves or more of the quest, one, two, or more, whoever was sent, did they feel like they needed to be there? And did they feel like their presence was specifically useful for the conflict of the episode? And I would say yes here. Very much so. Now, Fluttershy and Applejack have gone on a friendship quest before together. They went to Lost Pegasus, where they had to deal with Gladstone and work alongside the Flim Flam brothers in order to, stop him, basically. And that was basically when the Flim Flam brothers took over the casino and the resorts and all. So, yeah. Now, in that episode, before, they had a good chemistry, and they really made it work well. Their personalities helped build the conflict up and solve it in a way that I don't think anyone else could have in that situation. I think it was done better here, though. In this episode, I think it was handled even better. Because both of them had a very distinct, very important role. Now, we followed Applejack for most of the episode. When she went and met with Autumn, we were following her, and we didn't see what Fluttershy was up to during that time. But we can assume it kind of told us without telling us, And each of them had their roles. So Applejack's role was to see things from the perspective of the speaking aspect. To see things from the perspective of what the vow of silence they were currently facing wasn't right, and that they needed to change back, that they needed to basically learn to deal with that anger. And Applejack's kind of this rough-headed, very brash type of character. She, a lot of times, comes to these very harsh decisions. And I could see why that would cause some issues with Fluttershy. I mean, there was an entire episode about that, like, their combative personalities with bats in Season 4. And here it works out really well, just as it did in bats. Because here we have it, so, like, again, Applejack's more of a aggressive viewpoint on this. She thinks that, yes, they need to change back. And she's viewing it as an, they need to do this. They need to control their anger, and they need to change back, and they need to be able to speak and sing and laugh again. And Fluttershy, she's more of the understanding nature. Her viewpoint is like, oh, but they were so scared. They're so scared of bad things happening. They're going to put the forest and the animals and each other in danger. And both aspects make logical sense, and they're both completely valid. And they both fit the characters. Applejack's one of those characters who would be more outgoing and abrasive and want to see these creatures, these Kirin, embrace that. Embrace being themselves and not letting fear rule their lives. While Fluttershy would be one who would be more agreeable towards the timid side of things, would be more agreeable towards, okay, yeah, these creatures are just afraid. She's been there. She's been in those kind of situations. They're afraid of putting their friends in danger. They're afraid of doing more damage to the forest again and to other creatures. Fluttershy's definitely going to understand that. With her love of nature and animals, hell yeah. Like, it makes sense. And the way they come into agreement through arguing is important. Because they have this argument, yes, and arguments are kind of hard to deal with a lot of times, but in a way they're also very healthy because it allows you to, as I said earlier, get out your thoughts. And when you're able to get your thoughts out there, it allows you, even if you're in the middle of arguing, it'll allow you to be able to work through them together. And you'll start to realize, like, oh, maybe we could actually do it this way. And that's kind of what happened here. So, yeah, just good job on the writer for this one. I think it was a new writer. At least I didn't recognize the name. The characters were done well. The story was handled well. Great lore. A wonderful song. I didn't even mention that, but a wonderful song. It was just an overall really good time. And I really can't wait to see it again. But for now, tell me in the comments below what you thought of this episode of My Little Pony Friendship's Magic Season 8. What did you think about the Kirin and their lore? What did you think about Applejack and Fluttershy's involvement here? And what did you think about the song by Autumn? Tell me your thoughts on all of that and more in the comments below, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.
And though you've come through many obstacles, shed tears along the way, you're still standing, live, love, laugh another day.